Hello, 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 everybody. We have so much on the agenda to talk about right now. Um, I've been trying to get to this live since last night, and I said, you know what? Let me just go ahead and do it for the Queen Network, which is what you are watching now. So, welcome to the Queen Network. Thank you for joining me today, or whenever this comes across your screen. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe so you can get more Black girl content like this. I am your host, Queen Fierce. Hey y'all, hey. And if you want to hit me up, you know what to do with that. Slide in my DMs because you know I like that. Okay, I just want to jump into it today. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The Derek Chauvin verdict was yesterday, and we all waited with bated breath, okay? And I don't even know how I stumbled upon it. It was just like, oh, they're announcing the verdict right now. So I was like, okay, I'm all in, I'm listening. But leading up to that, I was trying to process how I feel. So the entire trial, I was preparing myself for nothing surprises me. Y'all all know that feeling. Oh, they going to do what they going to do. So whatever happens, I won't be surprised because the system has failed to deliver justice time and time again. I was listening to something earlier that was like, when have we seen a win like this? Like, when have we seen some kind of acknowledgement like this? And especially so publicly. So leading up to this moment, the entire 3 weeks of trial, 2 weeks of trial, however long they were on trial, I was preparing myself for this moment, only to find out that many others felt just like me. Felt like, okay, I want to think good thoughts, but the track record has showed that this has not always been in our favor. So I'm preparing myself for that. For the three counts, the count of second degree murder, the count of third degree murder, and then the count of manslaughter. And I was like, one of these charges is going to be like, they're not going to find them guilty. So I went through this, I feel like, state of shock when they announced that this man is found guilty on all charges. So why didn't I feel like celebrating? Why didn't I feel like we got a win? Why doesn't it feel like a victory? I'm going to tell you why. Because at the same time they were delivering the verdict for a man who killed someone, put someone's murder on display without any kind of remorse. At the same time they are delivering this verdict is the same time that we get the news about police killing a teenage girl. I'm going to get into that a little bit later because I want to deal with the Derek Chauvin trial first before we transition into Makaya Bryant. And you want to say, oh, this is two completely different subjects. No, it's not. It's literally all part of the same discussion. Because while we're wrapping up one chapter, while we're considering this a win, like, yay, we finally got one, somebody's Black life kind of matters because we're seeing justice by this guilty verdict. We're starting a cycle all over again with a police officer in Columbus who made a split-second decision to shoot a 15-year-old girl who was wielding a knife. Ooh, I gotta breathe, child. that just all caught up to me. We're hoping for justice in one instance, while on the other instance, injustice is happening and unfolding right before our eyes. I mean, wow. So we're letting out this collective sigh, but at the same time, we're all re-traumatized. Where is the win? Where is the win in that? I I'm not feeling it. It was like I heard the verdict and I was like, okay, and they just better head, because there were people awaiting to burn this planet down. And I've been asking for off this planet for a while now. So I feel like before it blow up, I deserve to relocate somewhere else. And the powers that be and my creator needs to figure that thing out, because that was going to be the restart of some extreme civil unrest. The way the death of George Floyd affected people all over the world, not just this country. They've seen some of the biggest protests they've ever seen in Germany, in Paris, all over the world. So, all over the world, people are recognizing the systemic racism, that is the foundation of what this country has been built on. People are recognizing that. So we gained some allies. But let me tell you a story about allies. So yesterday, my brother, who is a black man, texted his neighbor, a white man, to ask him to borrow a tool. The neighbor said that he wasn't home. So my brother's like, all right, he's not home. But then a series of texts came in as if he was talking to someone else, as if he forgot that he had just texted my brother back. And it was his true feelings about the trial and about George Floyd and what happened with him. And by true feelings, I mean the rhetoric that we've been hearing that George Floyd was on something, even though his toxicology reports came back negative. Uh, the idea that he was resisting arrest, even though that he was handcuffed. All of these ideas that were fed by police and the media, that these white people, these people who you consider an ally, these people who are your so-called friends, these people who are your neighbors, believe. And what's done in the dark comes to the light. So I was just like, now you know who you living next to. It was meant for you to find that out. It was meant for my brother to find that out. Because if my brother feels comfortable enough to text his neighbor to ask him for a tool, not knowing that that neighbor harbored all these feelings about the justice or injustice of George Floyd. Be careful who you consider an ally, because they are saving face. They are showing you one thing on the outside, even though what they believe is completely different. Excuse me. And everyone doesn't want a war on a block, right? Everyone doesn't want to have that discussion, to have that fight. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be a discussion, because now that I know who you are and what you are and how you act and what you believe and what you do in the dark and how you talk to you, because you thought you was texting one of your little friends, but you was texting me. And now I found out how you really feel. Because if that can happen miles away to George Floyd, somebody you don't even know or can even carry any empathy for, you're not going to care about me as your neighbor right here, living next door to you. Be careful of people who are presenting themselves as allies, especially during this time. Because right now is a save face time. I don't know how they pulled it off. I believe the jury was fair, but that's not to say that the powers that be didn't want it to go this way, because they just knew that if it did not, what they would be up against, and they weren't prepared for what they would be up against. So, whether anybody believes this was justice or not, it definitely was a move of pacification. I just slid that in there. I forgot that I meant to mention that about the neighbor. That was some slick stuff, y'all. Then the media says, see, guys, if you just let the courts do their job, justice will be served. You don't have to riot. You don't have to go up in an uproar. You don't have to protest. The judicial system has done its job. How many times? Because we consider this a victory. How many times has the judicial system failed us? How many times? Why would I see? Oh, look, the courts have done their jobs. It's about damn time the courts have done their jobs. It's about damn time the judicial system has served an ounce of justice. It's about time. They just oughta have found that man guilty. Every day of this trial, I said they better find him guilty. Like, even though in my heart I was preparing for the worst, my spirit was rising up like, it better be guilty. The judicial system did their job. She better get out of here. I wanted to come through the screen on her. Because you got to be kidding me. This day, every day, and to the left. I got to light my sage. Oh, yeah, I got to light her. Yeah, we're going to have to light some sage on because, child. Other thing that we need to consider, for me, what will show justice is the sentencing. What will the sentencing look like? So I watched a really interesting video earlier on the breakdown of the sentencing. So apparently in Minneapolis in Minneapolis, they follow a system for how it's a guidance on how the judge delivers sentencing. So there's an actual grid according to the charges at hand and the severity of the person's record, right? So apparently this way, I'm going to make a long story short because I can break down the chart to you all. That might be another video, but this man, I watched this video earlier. It was a whole thing about how they determine the sentencing. So to make a long story short, Derek Chauvin could possibly get from anywhere from 12 and a half to 40 years. So this is where round 2 of the preparing myself begins. Because I'm like, this man could literally only get 12 and a half years. It's highly possible that this man, this murderer, can only get 12 and a half years. And who am I to say how prison reform works or if 12 and a half years is what he needs to get his mind and his life right? I personally don't think he's going to last that long, if you know what I mean. But yeah, who's to say? I'm not the authority on that. I don't believe this chart is the authority on that either. So 40 is the maximum amount of years that he can get for uh his worst charge, which I think is the second degree murder. Um, but because he doesn't have any priors, the least amount he can get is 12 and a half years. So the way this expert explained it is um, there are other points that are taken into consideration because of the severity of the crime. So that also has to be factored in and determined. I'm going to tell you this. He better get more than 12 and a half years. This better not be one of them hand-me-downs like naming a street after George Floyd talking about we deliver justice. No. Put that man under the jail. He need more than 12 and a half years to be under the jail. Yeah. So while we're processing all of that, in comes the news about Makaya Bryant. Makaya Bryant is a 15-year-old girl in Columbus, Ohio, who called the police for help and ended up being shot and killed by said police. When the police arrive on the scene, Makaya is wielding a knife and apparently charging after these other two girls, and the officer shot her 4 times. Say her name, Makaya Bryant. So this is the problem that I have with police overall. Stop bringing a gun to a knife fight. That's it. I know things we're moving quickly. I know that you have fractions of seconds to make a decision. But where is the de-escalation? I just never see it. The first option is always draw your weapon. Take time to process. This girl called you for help, and then you see her charging after two other girls. Them two girls probably was trying to jump her. She called. She called the police for help, and she was the one that ended up getting killed. My thought process from the outside looking in, of course, is that she had the knife to protect herself because two girls was trying to hurt her. Stop bringing guns to knife fights. What is it going to take? What is it going to take for officers to learn their job is to de-escalate? Or is that not their job? I'm mistaken. Okay, my bad. I thought it was part of a police officer's job to de-escalate, but apparently that is not their job. That can't possibly be their job because rarely do I see an officer de-escalate a situation. I was in a situation one time as a black woman in a white neighborhood, nowhere near home. And I can only be grateful for the officer that God sent this officer because it was the first time I ever seen an officer de-escalate a situation. This situation could have went all the way to the left. But the officer really did his job. I thought this was what officers were supposed to do. But we've seen it with, uh, we're now seeing it with Makaya Bryant. We've seen it just last week. Taser versus gun. Right in not Minneapolis, but Minnesota. This is a suburb of Minneapolis. That police chief resigned, by the way. Yeah, he got too much on the plea. And now there's an internal, not an internal investigation, a, I'll say an investigation. I want to say federal, but I don't want to mislabel. But there's now an investigation on uh, Minneapolis policing practices. Because this is not the first time, y'all. It's not even the second time. Minneapolis like a little hot spot for black people being killed by police. Yeah. It's something internally. Somebody got a bet going on. Like, how many can you get this year? Like, something internal is happening over there and possibly all over the country. But we seen it with a 9-year-old getting pepper sprayed. We seen it with Walter Wallace right here in Philadelphia, who had a knife, whose mother begged the police not to shoot, and they shot him anyway during a mental health crisis. Where's the de-escalation? There's no regard for uh, children, because this is a 15-year-old girl who's been killed. There's no regard, or the 9-year-old who was pepper sprayed in Rochester. No regard for black. All of these victims are black. There's no regard for mental health. Walter Wallace was a mental health situation. The situation with the 9-year-old was a mental health situation. There's no regard. And if you can't take regard, if you can't take these moments to process, these moments to do your job, then that shouldn't be your job. That should not be your job. I think I can go into a whole nother thing about what your job is supposed to be, but we all know the job of what is now these police departments were the original slave catchers. That's what it originally derived from. So the fact that black people are targeted or not cared for or not treated well or presumed to be guilty is not a new idea, because it all derives from the history of the original slave catchers. So what can we do? What can you do? Um, I'm going to do another video about self-care during this time, because that is going to be priority if you're going to function, like just make it through your your everyday life, because this is happening in our everyday life, and it is affecting us all in the same way, even though we're all processing it differently and showing it differently. Um, we are living with residual and collective trauma. And we are trying to help each other through the day to day. I'm thankful for the people who uh, text me to check on me, as I also checked on those around me, because it affects us all. It affects us all. So, what can we do? There's always levels to it. So, you have your, I think bringing awareness is important, um, to keep factual information in rotation, especially on social media. Do your research. Um, Before you talk about a particular situation. That way, nobody can't say nothing off the wall to you. They can't tell you nothing you don't know. And not, especially if you're talking to the counterparts. Uh, Unplug. That's a big one for me. Just unplug. Just say, this ain't for me right now. And it doesn't mean that you're any less connected to the struggle. It just means that your mind needs a break. Your heart needs a break. And it's okay to need a break, especially when you can't devote yourself to something that you can't even touch right now. That's okay. And then there are other ways to be involved. Connect with people who are on the ground doing the work. Connect with Movement for Black Lives. And I mean, people have their own ideologies about Black Lives Matter. Um, but that's the movement right now. Connect with organizations like the one I work for, New Voices. Um, Connect with Frontline. Connect with these orgs that are mobilizing around getting justice for Black lives. I think that's a good start. I think we can start there. Whew. I think I got it out. It's a lot to process, y'all. And I just want you to know that you are not alone in whatever you are feeling, and allow yourself to feel every bit of it. Take time and space when you need to take time and space. Sit in silence. Oh, and my biggest thing, fill yourself with some joy. There's so much around us right now that's trying to snatch our joy. Think of something that makes you feel truly happy, something that you love to do, and do it. I bought some things for my garden today. So it's time to get the garden started. So I'm super excited. I spent a lovely afternoon at the local Lowe's and bought me some seeds and some starter plants and some planters and some soil, and I'm ready. I'm ready for um, to engage in an activity that brings me joy. So identify that thing and get into that too. Before we log out, first I just want to say thank you for joining me. Thank you for helping me process all of this, because I feel like it's a lot. Um, if you're having similar thoughts or feelings, make sure you drop it in the comments. I want to reach out and touch. I want to know I'm not alone too. And let's hold each other up. Let's work through this thing together. Um, this is the start of something major on the horizon. Well, last year definitely was the kickoff, but we're not in the thick of it yet. We just getting started in this fight. So remember that. This needs to be the first of many. Because we still coming for the murderers of Breonna Taylor. Oh, we still coming for them. $12 million is not stopping that. Mm-mm. That officer who killed, what's his name? Dwayne Wright, the young man who was shot last week for a traffic violation in Minneapolis. Yeah, she up next. These murderers of Ahmaud Arbery. Oh yeah, they turn is coming. And don't forget, 3 other officers that were involved in the George Floyd tragedy still have to be tried. They will all be tried together in August, so be on the lookout for that. I'm sure their sentencing won't be as severe, but they need to understand this is not a joke or a game either, because 3 grown people stood around while another grown person put his knee into somebody's airway for 9.5 minutes. So y'all need to be held to the highest extent of accountability. You are leaders, supposed to show exemplary leadership, supposed to be an example in our community, role models. Children say when they grow up they want to be cops and police officers. Who is encouraging that narrative if this is what we're seeing from our cops and our police officers? I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Yeah, I don't want to go off on another tangent. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right here. But before I wrap it up, I want to say thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in to the Queen Network. I am your host, your favorite queen, Queen Fierce, right here on YouTube. And make sure you check out one of my faves. Our sponsor for this week is Born to Charm. That's right, Queen T has opened a brand new online boutique. I love my friends, they just so decent. So if you're looking for that statement piece or to upgrade your wardrobe, they got plus sizes coming soon. I'm super excited about that. Make sure you are checking out Born to Charm. So that's born, the number 2, charm.com. Is an online boutique. Queen T is there waiting for your orders. Check her out, see what she got. Let me know so that we can be twinsies. I got to order my stuff too. Okay. Okay. Born, the number 2, charm. Born2charm.com. You can also follow her on Instagram. Born, the number 2, charm. Okay. Thank you, Queen T, for sponsoring this show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, whether you tuned in now or you're watching it later. Thanks for checking out the Queen Network. We got a lot of work to do, y'all. We got a lot of work to do, but it is so, so worth it. Change is always worth it, y'all. Remember that. All right. I love y'all. Have a good week. I'm going to be dropping that video about self-care tips during the racial pandemic. Look out for that on a YouTube near you. All right, y'all. Peace.